The White House press secretary is a senior White House official whose primary responsibility is to act as spokesperson for the executive branch of the federal government of the United States, especially with regard to the president, senior aides and executives, as well as government policies. The press secretary is responsible for collecting information about actions and events within the president's administration and issues the administration's reactions to developments around the world. The press secretary interacts with the media and the White House press corps on a daily basis, generally in a daily press briefing. The press secretary serves by the appointment and at the pleasure of the President of the United States. The office does not require the advice and consent of the United States Senate. However, because of the frequent briefings given to the global media, who in turn inform the public, the position is a prominent non-cabinet post. On November 29, 2020, President Biden announced he had selected Jen Psaki to serve as White House press secretary during his presidency. Including Psaki, the last 4 consecutive White House press secretaries have been women. During the United States' early years, there was not a single designated staff person or office responsible for managing the relationship between the president and the growing number of journalists and media entities that were covering him. 3. It was not until after President Abraham Lincoln's administration that Congress formally appropriated funds for a White House staff, which at first consisted merely of a secretary. Ulysses S. Grant's White House staff officially numbered 6 people at a cost of $13,800, though he supplemented with personnel from the War Department. 50 years later, under the Coolidge administration, the staff had increased to just fewer than 50 people at a cost of nearly $100,000. 3. As presidents increasingly hired more staff, some showed a tendency to pick aides and confidants who had backgrounds in the field of journalism. 3. One of Abraham Lincoln's private secretaries, John G. Nicholls, had been an editor and owner of a newspaper in Illinois before he worked for the president in the White House. 4. While the modern equivalent of a private or personal secretary to the President of the United States would be more narrowly concerned with the care and feeding of the president, the small size of the White House staff at that point meant that Nicholls interacted with the press, occasionally in carrying out his duties. 4. He was occasionally asked to verify stories or information that various members of the press had heard. 4. Though the title and establishment of the roles and responsibilities of the press secretary job was still decades in the future, the small and growing White House staff was increasingly interacting with a growing number of professional journalists and mass media entities covering the president and the White House. 4. Andrew Johnson was the first president to grant a formal interview request to a reporter sitting down with Col. Alexander K. McClure from Pennsylvania. 7. Although various presidents and reporters had participated in conversations or dialogues prior to Johnson, the exchanges had been less formal. 6. Prior to the 1880s and the presidency of Grover Cleveland, the relationship between the president, his administration, and the small but growing number of newspapers covering him was such that there was little need for a formal plan or designated spokesperson to manage it. 3. The relationship between government and the press was not as inherently adversarial and arm's length as in modern times. In fact, prior to the establishment of the U.S. government printing office, some newspapers were awarded contracts to print government publications and often awarded the president with support in exchange. 3. For example, the Gazette of the United States won an early U.S. Treasury contract and was supportive of then-President Washington. 7. In general, though coverage of the president could be harsh and opinionated, newspapers were to some degree extensions of the political party apparatus and subsequently not seen as entities requiring specific, sustained management by the White House or administration. The media had changed significantly by 1884, when Grover Cleveland was elected as President of the United States. Between 1776 and 1884, the United States had quadrupled in size and increased in population from 2.5 million to 56 million. 7. The number of newspaper publications in active circulation had increased from 37 to more than 1,200 dailies, in addition to the many new monthly magazines. 7. The rapid growth in journalism as a booming industry resulted in an increase in reporters covering the activities of the president. 8. Grover Cleveland married 21-year-old Frances Folsom in 1886. The growing number of reporters and the increasing aggressiveness of their style of coverage led to frustrations when the press